Hello and welcome back to the Lift Your Life podcast. I hope everyone is doing good. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day, whatever day it is. If you are listening to this on the day of the drop, it will be Wednesday, the 1st of February. The 1st of February, Christ, we are in February already. I think it's a very British thing to say. How time flies. Oh my God, this year's flying already. It's gonna be Christmas before we know it. But it genuinely is, right? It's just crazy how life just seems to fly at the moment. And I guess this is very relative to today's podcast episode, that life just is go, 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 isn't it? 21st century life is go, 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 non-stop. And I think it drives up stress for people more than people even necessarily realize, because we live in a very, very stressful world. Stuff is just on the go all the time. There's social media, there's work, it's just a lot to process. And our brains weren't designed for this life. Our brains were designed, think back to when we were cavemen, think back when we were monkeys. A really good book about sort of how our brains still work and why our brains are still catching up with this modern day of living, and why we sometimes feel really weird about certain things, is the chimp paradox. Because basically we're just evolved monkeys, and we still have those primitive parts of our brain, and it explains a lot. And if you've never read that book, honestly, it is incredible. So go and read it. But I wanted to talk about stress today and stress management, because stress is a very, very common reoccurring theme within my client check-ins as a struggle for why they're struggling with their diet, why they're struggling to get everything done, and just generally just they're struggling with it, and it's impacting their mood, their motivation, their get up and go. And the reason that I wanted to talk about it on the podcast is that I can guarantee that the word stress is something that you can all relate to, or nod your head at and go, yep, I felt that, or I feel that at this moment. It's something very, very relevant to all of our lives and to our personal experiences. And the thing about stress is that once one stressor goes, another one will come. There is going to be a continuation of stressors in our life. It's not like we just have this one experience and that's it. You could have the stressor of, let's just say, financial stresses this month, and then that's sorted. But then you could have the stress of your job gets really intense. And then you could have the stress of that you're moving house and packing. That's what I'm doing right now. Definitely is a stress. So it's going to be there. And the word sort of stress management, stress coping gets thrown around. And I don't know about you, but when I think of, like, someone say to me, stress management, coping strategies, I think of like a handful of things. I think of either the bubble bath with a Lush bath bomb and some candles, or speaking to like a therapist. Those are like the two things that just jump to my mind. But actually, stress management is so much deeper than that. And there is so much more that you can do. And I want you to actually understand what stress management is and how you can actually implement it into your life. Yes, it's going to have an impact on, fat loss and muscle building and all your fitness related goals, because if you are less stressed, you're going to put more time, more effort and energy into those things. Absolutely. But more so just for your overall well-being, guys. I am big on emotional well-being. I am big on mental health and well-being. It is a huge core pivotal part of my coaching. I could not care less how my clients look if they are not feeling good. And that's why I do communicate with my clients regularly. I do want them to speak to me, because I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, but guess what? I'm here to listen. And if their mental health is not good, that is always going to take number one top spot on priority and focus. So I want to talk to you today about stress management and a little concept known as the 4 A's of stress management, and help you understand that stress management is actually multi-dimensional. There's quite a few things that go into it, and to understand which strategy is probably the most applicable at a given time, and how it is that you can manage your stress better. I want you to understand as well that when it comes to stress, it's never actually the stressor itself that makes us feel stressed. It's how we respond and react. So it isn't the money situation. It's not the workload. It's not the moving house. It's how we're coping with that drives up that stress response, that drives those negative emotions, those negative side effects. And that's another thing, guys, it's a health and fitness podcast here. Prolonged levels of stress is bad for our health. It can drive up cortisol, which can have an impact on our blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that. So from a health perspective, as well as mentally, physically, it's really, really bad. It's not good to be stressed for long periods of time. So let's go through the 4 A's, the 4 A's of how it is that you can manage your stress, because it is more than just a bubble bath. It is more than just speaking to a counselor and therapist. The first A is avoid, and that is avoiding your stress. A lot of our stresses we can actually avoid by just changing things in our day-to-day or taking action on it. So a really good example of this is the stressor of the commute to work or traffic. Now, I used to find traffic really stressful, especially when I had somewhere to be, or I'd had a long day and I just wanted to get home. Like today, for example, there was these horrendous roadworks on the way back from the gym, and it just took me forever. And I was like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. And I then changed my mindset. It's okay, well, that's really annoying, but I can't change the fact that there's these temporary roadworks. They're there. I'm sat here now. So do I sit here feeling really, really angry and frustrated and, getting pretty pissed off with the situation? Or could it be a time that I actually go, well, actually, you know what? I'm now forced to be just sat here. What can I do about it? And what I like to do in traffic or long journeys now, which are a stressor and frustration for me, is I don't see them as a stressor or frustration. It's some me time. So I listen to a podcast, or I listen to some music that makes me happy, or just relaxing. So today I listened to some relaxing movie scores. That's what I love to listen to just relax my mind a little bit. And it was actually a really, really peaceful sort of 15, 20 minutes for me, rather than it being a stressor. Another thing that you could do is maybe avoid the situation if it's a people one. So an example here is if there's people in your life that are driving up stress, can you avoid them? Do you actually have to be in proximity of them? Sometimes, unfortunately, like if it's your sister, you can't tell your mum that you want to kick your sister out because, probably not going to go down well. But for example, in the office, or in work, could you ask to not be put on shifts with certain people? Could you ask that your desk is moved away? So an example of this is back when I used to work in fast food. There was a shift worker that I just did not get on with at all. I did not like him. I don't like his mannerisms, and he made me feel very uncomfortable. So I had the conversation with my manager and said, look, I really do not get on with this person for X, Y, and Z reason. And I don't want to be put on shift with them because it's making me feel this way. And then I was never put on shift with them, and I enjoyed my job more, and that stress of, oh my God, I can't deal with him at work today is there. So how can you proactively go out to avoid the situation? And another one is just to say no. Boundaries and saying no is something that we really, really struggle with in this day and age. We have a lot of guilt and anxiety about not saying yes, but it's okay to say no if that's going to be beneficial for yourself. So again, I'll use myself as an example. There's some weeks that are just so full on, so full on for myself. And when it comes to the weekend, when I tend to just take a little bit more of a back step from work, that's when I'll have sort of free time to maybe see people or do things. But sometimes my battery is just so drained that I just need to be on my own. I just need to maybe catch up on things that I need to do, like some housework or cleaning. I'm just feeling behind on that. So I'm going to say no to meeting people or maybe going to see my family, because you know what? I need that, because saying yes is going to make me more stressed thinking about X, Y, and Z on my to-do list. So don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to put yourself first. Don't be afraid to do that. I know it's hard because you want to be there for everyone and do everything, but it's okay to say no. It really is. And think about the outcome if you do say yes, and think about the outcome if you do say no. They're probably going to forget about it within a few moments in time. But if you say yes and your stress continues, and that stress continues into the next week and the week after, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. The next A is alter. So can you alter the situation? And this is more about letting people know how you feel. This is letting people know your boundaries, which is quite similar to what I said there. So that is communicating with your boss that actually, do you know what? I am struggling. That's communicating with a loved one that I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, this is going on. It's communicating maybe with your team. If you're in like a sports team and something's not right, it's just letting people know that you are stressed, to see if there is a way that we can alter the situation. Because if you don't actually vocalize it and you don't get it out there, how is anything ever going to change? How do people know? How can people help and support you? I know you don't ever want to burden people with your problems, but a problem shared is a problem halved. So whenever you have a stressor or a negative thought about something, I always think just sharing it with someone makes it so much easier to deal with. Just that speaking with someone, and that speaking with the right people is what's going to help make that situation better. So for example, if you're really just struggling with just the amount of stress going on with workload, and you're going home and your partner isn't like helping out around the house, and that's just making you stressed, you've got all the housework. If you don't tell them how you're feeling at work, and that them not pulling their weight is getting you down and making you more stressed, they won't know. So there's no alteration to the situation. If you don't tell your boss that I can't take on any more, I am overworked, they don't know that. So they're just going to give you more work. So you need to be proactive to alter the situation and communicate and speak. It's hard. I know you don't want to sound like a negative Nancy, but that is how you are going to get through it. The next one is acceptance. And sometimes I do genuinely feel that you just need to accept the stressor for what it is. And sometimes actually being able to go, actually, you know what? I accept that things are challenging right now, rather than trying to bury it and suppress it and be like, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm doing good. Accept it. Okay, this is a really stressful time for me. This is a huge promotion. This is a huge work task. Workload is crazy. The finance situation going on is crazy. Whatever it is, just accept it. Because like I mentioned at the start of this podcast, it isn't the stressor that makes us feel bad. It isn't the stressor that makes us unwell. It isn't the stressor that gets us down. It's how we react and respond. So again, we'll use myself because I can give my personal experience as an example. The house move. I've accepted that it's pretty damn stressful. I think people say that moving house is one of the most stressful things you'll do. Yeah, it's pretty stressful. But I've just accepted it and gone, right, you know what? It is a monumental task. There is a lot of things to do. There is a lot of boxes to tick, a lot of things to remember, a lot of work to be done. Like tonight when I finish work, when I normally wrap up work around 7 o'clock, I would normally go and put my pajamas on or comfies, stick on a film, stick on some TV, scroll on my phone for a little bit, read a book, just chilling out. No, tonight I will be packing and cleaning till pretty much probably I go to bed. And I've just accepted it. I've just taken that acceptance rather than panicking, stressing, and worrying. And another way that you can be in acceptance, again, that communication with people is really huge. To just be like, you know what? I surrender. This is how I feel, and I accept that. And this is where I'm at. So tell people that. Take time for you as well. And I think when you actually acknowledge the fact that you are stressed and struggling and the time is tough, that's when you're actually allowing yourself to give yourself permission to de-stress and take time out. Because I think if you're like, oh no, I can manage it, it's fine. You're not, if you're fine, it's like, well, I don't need to de-stress. I don't need to do anything for myself because I'm all right. But when you actually say to yourself, do you know what? I am not okay. This stress is quite intense. There's a lot going on here. You're accepting that things aren't great and that therefore you can do things for yourself to make you feel better because there's a reason for it. So allow yourself that you time, surrender to the fact that things are tough, accept it, and then make time for you. Make sure you prioritize that you time, that de-stress, that de-load time, whatever that looks like to you. And de-stressing is, like I said, it's more than just a bubble bath. It can be a walk out in nature. It could be calling someone. It could be going for coffee with a friend. It could be going to the gym. It could be doing yoga. It could be just doing something creative and getting in a flow state. So things like gaming and Lego and like games like, Sudoku and coloring books, things where your mind is distracted. It looks so different for everyone. Mine is I like to watch films. I like to be out in nature. I like to spend time with loved ones. Those are my things, and everyone's things are going to be different. And writing as well. Writing's a really good one. I like to write things down. So today when I woke up, for example, again with the house move, I was just like, I've not even started packing yet. This is just too much of a task. What do I do? So instead I said, well, if you just sit here and do that, you're just going to have all these thoughts of what could I do in my head. So write it down. Write down 2 things that you could do today to get going. So I picked 2 rooms and said, right, you're going to make a start on these. And just writing them down and just kind of taking that thought out and putting it on paper is really powerful, because once it's out of here, it's almost like you have this shift of like irrationality to logic, and it's like magic. So just by getting it out on paper, you can start to think logically instead of being like, oh my god, so much to do. So well, actually, how can I process this? How can I actually start to work through this? So writing things down, honestly, journaling or just writing it in a diary or a to-do list or something, it is massive. And then the last one is adapt. And this one's all about self expectations and managing those, because we tend to put very, very high amounts of pressure on ourselves based off what we believe to be true from our experiences, from our childhood, from what we're told throughout our lives, through what we see on social media. We set expectations based off that. Think about all the expectations you have of yourself and what you should do and where they come from. They come from so many different things when you actually sit and take the time to think about it. Because there's very few expectations that are like law or set in stone. This is what you must do. It's what we feel we must do because of X. And sometimes those what we feel we must do is not right for us at a given time. So, for example, for me right now, I've got so many things. I'm like, oh my God, I should be doing this for my job. Oh my God, I should be doing that. And it's like, but maybe right now you shouldn't be, because you're doing something else. And actually, I'm going to lower my expectations of what's possible within this week, because I'm a human and I've only got so many hours in the day. Are you trying to do too much? Are you setting your standards too high? Are your expectations for yourself too high for this moment? Do you feel like you're letting yourself down because you're falling short of that? So just think about the standards that you're setting yourself. Think about what it is that you want to achieve. Think what you're working towards. And why do you feel stressed? Because you're falling short of that. You're not achieving X. You're not there yet. It's not done. But is it realistic to do that? Stop aiming to please everyone. Stop aiming to be perfect. And sometimes you just need to get a better perspective as well. And just go, in the grand scheme, is this important right now? In the grand scheme, is this a huge problem? Am I going to remember this in a year, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is? And sometimes it's no. And just actually telling yourself that can just help you feel a lot calmer in the moment by gaining that perspective of it. So I hope that's been helpful for you guys. I hope that's been a bit more insightful than me just going, yeah, just go chill out, meditate, run a bubble bath, zen when you're feeling stressed. I hope those sort of strategies and just thinking about it in sort of different ways has been really helpful. If it has, let me know, because I like to do these more mindset ones. You know me, psychology degree. I love talking about these things. It's a pivotal part of my coaching. It's a pivotal part of my passions beyond fitness, is mindset, mental well-being. And I like talking about it on podcasts. And if you enjoy these ones, let me know. Again, if you've enjoyed today, a little screenshot and share on your Instagram story does go a long way. So I always appreciate it. And if you haven't left a review or just a little rating, like the star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, again, that helps me to just grow the podcast, and it would be more than appreciated. Love you if you do it. Thank you. But over and out for this week, guys. And if anyone watching the video, this will be the last time you see a podcast in this room because the move commences next week. So wish me luck on that one. But have yourself a lovely, lovely rest of your day, guys. And I'll catch up with you shortly.